Good evening, my friends. Tonight I am going to tell you something that will shock you, something that contradicts the entire positive thinking movement that has swept the world. Stop being positive. Stop trying to think positive thoughts. Stop forcing yourself to feel positive emotions. Stop pretending everything is wonderful when it is not, because positive thinking, as it is commonly practiced, is one of the greatest obstacles to true manifestation. I can see the confusion on your faces. But Neville, you're thinking, haven't you taught us that our thoughts create reality? That we should think about what we want, not what we don't want? Yes, I have taught this. Scripture reveals this truth without apology. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not as he thinks in passing, not as he speaks in public, but as he thinks in his heart, the place where thought hardens into identity. Your heart is not your emotions. It is your self-definition. And self-definition governs experience with exactness. Most people believe they are trapped by conditions, by money, by time, by relationships, by history, by trauma, by the world. Yet none of these possess creative authority. They are effects, they are reflections, they are echoes. The cause is always your concept of yourself. A man who sees himself as overlooked will meet closed doors everywhere. A woman who accepts herself as unworthy will experience withholding no matter how hard she tries. A person who identifies as struggling will find struggle repeating faithfully. This is not punishment. It is precision. The law does not judge your concept of yourself. It expresses it. This is why change feels so difficult when attempted at the surface level. People try to fix behavior without altering identity. They attempt to improve circumstances while carrying the same self-concept that created them. That effort exhausts. You cannot escape a prison you continue to identify with. This is why Christ did not teach self-improvement. He taught self-revelation. He did not say, try harder to live differently. He said, ye must be born again. Born again is not moral reform. It is identity shift. Birth changes location. To be born again is to move from one concept of self to another, from limitation to authority, from separation to unity, from fear to trust. This is not gradual. It is decisive. Your life changes the moment you accept a new self-concept as true. Neville Goddard taught this relentlessly. He understood that imagination is not fantasy. It is the faculty by which identity is selected. When you imagine yourself as free, capable, loved, or fulfilled, you are not rehearsing hope. You are choosing a state of being. States are prisons or kingdoms, and every state has laws that govern it. If you accept yourself as powerless, the world will appear hostile and overwhelming. If you accept yourself as capable, the same world becomes navigable. If you accept yourself as chosen, life reflects recognition. The world does not change first. You change position within it. This is why awakening feels unsettling. It dismantles excuses. It removes the comfort of blame. It places responsibility exactly where it belongs within consciousness. Responsibility here is not burden. It is liberation. If your life reflects your self-concept, then changing the self-concept changes the reflection. Nothing else is required. But the mind resists this truth. It prefers external causes. It prefers delay. It prefers complexity. Complexity allows postponement. Simplicity demands action. The simplicity of this law can feel confronting. You are not limited by what has happened to you, only by what you believe it says about who you are. Events do not define you. Your interpretation of them does. Two people can experience the same loss. One becomes hardened. One becomes wiser. The difference is not the event, it is the identity, each adopted afterward. Identity is the interpretation you agree to live from. And most identities are inherited unconsciously. You were taught who you were before you ever questioned it. By family, by culture, by authority, by repetition. Over time, these definitions hardened into fact, yet they were never facts. They were assumptions, and assumptions can be replaced. This is where imagination becomes sacred. Imagination allows you to try on a new self-concept inwardly before the world confirms it. It allows you to step out of an old identity without waiting for permission from circumstances. Imagination is the womb of rebirth. When you imagine yourself confident, you are not pretending. You are selecting a state. When you feel from that state, the nervous system adjusts, the body aligns, behavior follows, The world responds. Science confirms what Scripture reveals symbolically. The brain reorganizes around repeated self-perception. Neural pathways follow identity. What you believe yourself to be, you act as. How you act determines outcomes. Yet Scripture goes further. The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom is not a destination. It is a state of consciousness. A king is one who rules. When you rule inwardly over identity, you enter the kingdom. You stop being governed by reaction. You stop being driven by fear. You stop being defined by memory. Memory is not destiny. Identity is. This is why forgiveness is essential. Forgiveness is not excusing others. It is releasing old identities that were formed in pain. It is saying inwardly, this no longer defines who I am. Forgiveness dissolves prisons. So does self-compassion. So does honesty. So does courage. Courage here is not confrontation of the world. It is confrontation of the self-image you have outgrown. You begin to notice how often you speak from the old identity, how your inner dialogue reinforces limitation, how casually you declare yourself tired, unlucky, anxious, behind, undeserving. These declarations are not harmless. They are instructions. The subconscious does not distinguish joke from truth. It accepts repetition as command, and what it accepts, it enacts. This is why inner speech matters more than outer speech. What you say to yourself in silence shapes the boundaries of your life. Change the inner narrative, and the outer story rewrites itself. This is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. Accuracy means aligning thought with truth rather than habit. Truth here is not opinion, it is principle. The principle that consciousness precedes experience. When you change how you see yourself, you change what you permit, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you receive. You stop accepting crumbs when you no longer identify as starving. You stop chasing approval when you no longer identify as invisible. You stop fearing rejection when you no longer identify as unworthy. This is how chains fall off without force. Chains fall when the identity that required them dissolves. Christ demonstrated this repeatedly. He did not heal by addressing symptoms. He addressed identity. Thy sins are forgiven. Arise, go, and sin no more. Each command assumed a new self-concept immediately. The person was treated as whole before evidence appeared, and wholeness expressed itself. This is the pattern. You do not wait to feel free before identifying as free. You identify as free, and feeling follows. Feeling follows, and behavior changes. Behavior changes, and life responds. This is the sequence of liberation. Most people attempt it backward. They wait for circumstances to change before allowing identity to shift. This keeps them imprisoned indefinitely. The door opens inward. The moment you accept a new concept of yourself, the old walls lose authority. They may still appear, but they no longer define your movement. You walk differently, you speak differently, you choose differently, and the world mirrors those differences faithfully. This is why being a better person is not moral strain. It is identity alignment. A person who sees themselves as whole does not act destructively. A person who accepts themselves as loved does not manipulate. A person who identifies as capable does not collapse under challenge. Character flows from concept. So now, the question becomes simple and unavoidable. Who do you believe yourself to be? Not who you hope to become. Not who you were told you are. Who you are accepting yourself to be right now. That acceptance is shaping everything. If the answer feels limiting, that is not condemnation. It is invitation, an invitation to choose again. You are allowed to release identities that no longer fit. You are allowed to step out of self-concepts formed in survival. You are allowed to imagine yourself anew. This is not arrogance. It is obedience to truth. The truth that you are more than the stories you inherited, more than the labels you accepted, more than the experiences that shaped you. You are consciousness itself, capable of selecting identity deliberately. Selection is quiet. You do not announce it. You do not defend it. You live from it. Living from a new self-concept feels unfamiliar at first. The mind resists. The old identity argues. This is normal. You do not negotiate with it, you remain. Remaining stabilizes identity. And once stabilized, life rearranges naturally. Opportunities align. Relationships adjust. Boundaries strengthen. Peace deepens. You did not fight the prison. You walked out because the prison was never real. Only the belief in it was. So now, let this settle. You are not imprisoned by your past. You are not imprisoned by your circumstances. You are not imprisoned by others. You are imprisoned only by your concept of yourself. And the key has always been in your hand. Choose wisely, remain gently, and live free. And as this truth settles deeper, you begin to notice something quietly dissolving inside you. The constant effort to justify your life softens. The need to explain yourself to yourself loses urgency. You are no longer standing trial before your own mind. This is freedom beginning to register. Freedom does not arrive as excitement. It arrives as relief. Relief that you no longer have to carry identities that were formed to survive moments that have already passed. Relief that you no longer need to earn permission to exist fully. Relief that you can simply be where you are, as who you choose to be. Choice is the overlooked miracle. Every moment, you are choosing a concept of yourself, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes deliberately. And whatever you choose, life accepts as instruction. Life never argues with self-concept. It reflects it. You start to see how often you once defended limitations as realism, how often you called fear being careful, how often you called resignation acceptance. These were not truths. They were habits of identity. Habits can be broken, yet breaking here does not mean force. It means replacement. You do not destroy an old self-concept. You outgrow it by occupying a higher one. Higher does not mean superior to others. It means more aligned with truth. Truth is expansive. It does not shrink you. It does not confine you. It does not ask you to hide. When you accept a truer concept of yourself, something opens internally. Breath deepens. Posture shifts. The inner world feels less crowded. Crowding is a sign of conflict. Conflict arises when you try to live from two identities at once. One reaching forward, one holding back. One imagining freedom, one rehearsing limitation. This tension is exhausting. Resolution comes when you choose one. When you choose a new self-concept, you may feel moments of dissonance. Old thoughts will surface. Old emotional reflexes will speak. This is not failure. It is adjustment. The psyche is reorganizing around a new center. Centers matter. Whatever sits at the center of your identity governs your reactions. If fear sits there, everything is filtered through threat. If trust sits there, everything is filtered through possibility. The same events occur, yet they are experienced differently. This difference is everything. You realize now that awakening is not about adding spirituality to life. It is about removing false identity from it. It is subtraction, not accumulation. The more you let go of what you are not, the more clearly what you are can express itself. Expression feels natural. You are not forcing confidence. It emerges. You are not practicing peace. It settles. You are not performing kindness. It flows. These qualities were never absent. They were obscured by a self-concept that could not hold them. As that self-concept loosens, behavior changes without discipline. You find yourself responding with patience where you once reacted. You speak with clarity where you once hesitated. You rest without guilt. Guilt belongs to an identity that believes it must earn rest. That belief dissolves here. You begin to treat yourself with the same grace you once reserved for others. You stop demanding perfection as proof of worth. You allow growth to be gradual without interpreting it as inadequacy. This allowance accelerates change. The nervous system relaxes when it is no longer under constant evaluation. A relaxed system imagines more freely. It perceives opportunity more accurately. It responds creatively rather than defensively. Creativity thrives in safety. Safety here is internal. It is the safety of knowing you are not on probation with life, that you are not one mistake away from collapse, that your worth is not conditional. This knowing reshapes how you face challenges. Challenges no longer feel like verdicts. They feel like invitations to respond from the identity you are choosing. Each response reinforces that identity. Reinforcement builds stability. Stability allows you to remain yourself across situations. You are not one person in success and another in difficulty. You carry the same center through both. This consistency strengthens trust both within yourself and in the world's response to you. Trust invites cooperation. People respond differently to someone who is no longer seeking permission to exist. Boundaries are respected. Words carry weight. Presence communicates more than explanation ever could. Presence is identity embodied. You are no longer trying to prove who you are. You are being who you have accepted yourself to be. This is the quiet authority that Neville spoke of, the authority that comes from inner agreement. Agreement ends struggle. You see now that the struggle was never with circumstances. It was with self-definition. The moment that definition shifts, struggle loses its fuel. Fuel is belief. Belief in limitation fuels confinement. Belief in possibility fuels movement. Belief in unworthiness fuels rejection. Belief in sufficiency fuels provision. Provision does not always arrive as excess. Sometimes it arrives as exactly enough, at exactly the right time, through exactly the right channel. This precision builds trust. Trust deepens surrender. Surrender here does not mean passivity. It means releasing the identity that insisted on controlling outcomes to feel safe. You allow life to respond to the state you are living from. Life responds faithfully. This faithfulness becomes obvious as patterns change. Situations that once repeated begin to dissolve. New options appear where none were visible. You are not forcing these changes. They are consequences of a new center. Centers create worlds. You are creating now, whether you realize it or not. The question is no longer whether you are creating, but from which concept of self you are doing so. And this is where the teaching becomes personal. You are invited, again and again, to notice the identity you are inhabiting in each moment, not to judge it, to observe it. And when you see one that feels tight, heavy, diminishing, you are allowed to step out. You step out by imagining yourself differently, by feeling the difference, by letting that feeling guide your next response. Responses accumulate. Each aligned response strengthens the new self-concept. Each time you choose dignity over diminishment, truth over habit, presence over fear, you reinforce freedom. Freedom is practiced inwardly first. And as you practice, it becomes natural. You no longer think of yourself as someone trying to be free. You simply live without the old constraints. The bars dissolve quietly. You look around one day and realize you are no longer where you used to be. The room is larger. The air is lighter. The possibilities feel closer. This is not coincidence. This is correspondence. You change your concept of yourself, and life responded. So continue. Continue noticing who you are being. Continue choosing who you will be. Continue releasing what no longer fits. There is no rush here. There is no pressure. Only the quiet unfolding of freedom, one self-concept at a time. And as this unfolding continues, you begin to feel a deeper kindness toward yourself emerging naturally. It is not indulgence. It is understanding. You see how long you lived under assumptions that were never questioned, how faithfully you carried identities that were never chosen consciously. This understanding softens judgment. Judgment was another form of imprisonment. It kept you measuring yourself against ideals that did not arise from truth. As judgment loosens, space opens. In that space, something steadier appears. Compassion becomes your new baseline. Compassion here is clarity without cruelty. You see your patterns without condemning them. You recognize your limits without defining yourself by them. This clarity allows you to move forward without dragging the past behind you. Dragging the past exhausts the present. The present is where transformation happens. Every moment offers a quiet opportunity to reassert who you are being. You notice the inner impulse before action. You pause. You choose. Choice regains its rightful place. This is how you stop living reactively. Reaction belongs to an identity shaped by fear and memory. Response belongs to an identity grounded in awareness. You are learning to respond. Response feels spacious. You do not feel rushed into words. You do not feel cornered by emotions. You allow a breath, a pause, a moment of recollection. In that pause, you remember who you are choosing to be. Remembering restores power. Power here is not control over others. It is coherence within yourself. Coherence means your thoughts, feelings, and actions are moving in the same direction. There is no inner argument. Inner silence strengthens intuition. When the mind is no longer crowded by self-criticism, intuition speaks clearly. Guidance arrives quietly. You sense what to do without overthinking. You trust this sense more with each passing moment. Trust builds through experience. Each time you follow the guidance that arises from a freer self-concept, you see the results. Things work out more smoothly. Interactions feel cleaner. You experience fewer regrets. Regret fades when actions align with identity. Alignment becomes your compass. You measure choices by how they feel in relation to who you are becoming. If something feels diminishing, you release it. If something feels expansive, you move toward it. Expansion is a reliable signal. Expansion does not always mean ease. Sometimes it means courage. Sometimes it means letting go of familiarity. Yet even then, there is a sense of rightness beneath the challenge. Rightness calms fear. Fear loses its grip when it is no longer mistaken for truth. You see fear as information, not authority. It informs you of growth edges, not boundaries. Boundaries are chosen, not imposed. You begin to choose boundaries that honor your new self-concept. You say no without apology. You say yes without self-betrayal. You protect your energy without guilt. Guilt dissolves as worthiness stabilizes. Worthiness here is not earned. It is accepted. You accept that your existence does not require justification. From this acceptance, generosity flows naturally. Generosity of attention, generosity of patience, generosity of presence. Presence becomes your gift. Others feel it. Conversations deepen. Connections feel more authentic. You are no longer performing a role. You are meeting life as yourself. Meeting life this way is transformative. You are no longer waiting to become someone else before you allow yourself peace. You bring peace into the becoming. This changes the entire journey. The journey becomes livable. You begin to enjoy moments that once felt like obstacles. Even uncertainty has texture now. It invites curiosity rather than panic. You trust that you can meet whatever arises from the identity you are cultivating. Cultivation is gentle. You do not rip out old patterns aggressively. You starve them of attention by feeding what aligns instead. Over time, the old loses strength. The new takes root. Roots matter. Deep roots allow you to stand steady when external conditions shift. You are no longer tossed by opinions, trends, or moods. You are anchored inwardly. This anchoring feels like home. Home is not a place. It is a state of agreement with yourself. You return to it again and again until returning becomes unnecessary. You simply live there. Living there changes your relationship with time. You stop rushing to arrive somewhere else. You allow growth to unfold naturally. You understand that becoming is not a race. It is a revelation. Revelation happens gradually and suddenly. Gradually, as habits soften. Suddenly, as insight lands. One day, you realize you are no longer confined by the identity you once defended. You no longer explain it. You no longer protect it. You have moved on. Moving on feels light. You do not need to burn bridges. You simply stop crossing them. The old identity fades from use. Like an outdated map, it no longer guides you. You carry a new map now. This map is simple. It points inward. It asks one question repeatedly. Does this reflect who I am choosing to be? If the answer is yes, you proceed. If the answer is no, you pause. This practice refines life. Life becomes less cluttered. Choices simplify. You feel less scattered. Energy returns. Creativity awakens. Awakening is not dramatic here. It is quiet recognition. Recognition that you were never meant to live constrained by inherited definitions. Recognition that you are free to define yourself in alignment with truth. Truth is expansive. It does not shrink you into roles. It does not trap you in past mistakes. It invites you forward continuously. And as you accept this invitation, day by day, moment by moment, you notice the prison was never real. Only the concept was. And concepts can change. So you continue gently, attentively choosing your self-concept with care, letting it evolve, letting it express. Freedom grows naturally from this care, and it keeps growing. And as freedom continues to grow in this quiet, organic way, you begin to sense a deeper responsibility emerging alongside it. Not responsibility as burden, but responsibility as authorship. You recognize that you are no longer merely reacting to life's script. You are writing from within it. Authorship changes posture. You sit differently within your own mind. You listen differently to your thoughts. You notice when an old self-description tries to reclaim authority, and instead of fighting it, you simply decline its offer. Declining is enough. You do not need to argue with outdated identities. You have already moved beyond them. Arguing would give them relevance they no longer deserve. Silence allows them to fade. Fading feels peaceful. You notice that inner tension decreases. The mental noise that once demanded constant attention softens into background stillness. From this stillness, creativity rises naturally. Creativity here is not artistic performance. It is adaptive intelligence. You begin to respond to life with originality rather than habit. You find new ways to speak, to solve, to connect. These responses feel authentic rather than rehearsed. Authenticity strengthens confidence. Confidence no longer depends on outcomes. It depends on congruence. You trust yourself because you are acting in alignment with who you are becoming. Even when results are uncertain, your inner agreement remains intact. Inner agreement is stabilizing. It allows you to tolerate ambiguity without losing center. You no longer need every answer before you take a step. You trust the part of you that knows how to adjust along the way. Adjustment becomes fluid. You stop seeing change as disruption. You see it as dialogue. Life presents information, and you respond from your chosen identity. This exchange feels intelligent and alive. Alive systems adapt. You are now living as an adaptive system rather than a fixed personality. Your core values remain steady, yet your expression evolves. This flexibility keeps you engaged rather than rigid. Rigidity belongs to fear. Fear needs fixed definitions to feel safe. Freedom allows movement. You are discovering that safety does not come from control, but from trust in your ability to meet what arises. Meeting what arises builds resilience. Resilience here is not endurance. It is responsiveness. You bounce back quickly because you do not internalize setbacks as reflections of identity. You treat them as experiences, not verdicts. Verdicts belong to judgment. Judgment fades as understanding deepens. You see that every phase of your life served a purpose. Even identities that once confined, you offered protection at the time. Gratitude replaces resentment. Gratitude integrates the past. Integration frees energy. Energy once spent resisting your history returns as vitality. You feel more present in your body. You notice sensation, breath, movement. Embodiment deepens. Embodiment anchors identity. When identity is embodied, it is no longer theoretical. It lives in how you walk into a room, how you hold eye contact, how you pause before responding. Others sense this grounding immediately. Grounded presence invites trust. Trust changes relationships. Conversations become more honest. Boundaries become clearer. You are no longer trying to manage impressions. You allow yourself to be seen as you are. Being seen feels safe now. Safety arises from self-acceptance. When you accept yourself, exposure loses its threat. You are not hiding. You are expressing. Expression is the natural outcome of freedom. You express your needs without apology. You express your ideas without shrinking. You express care without losing yourself. This balance feels new, yet deeply right. Rightness is felt, not argued. You do not need to convince yourself that this way of living is better. Your nervous system recognizes it. Your body relaxes into it. Your mind becomes clearer. Clarity sharpens intention. You choose goals that reflect your values rather than compensate for insecurity. Your ambitions feel aligned rather than frantic. You are building from wholeness rather than lack. Building from wholeness sustains momentum. Momentum here is steady, not explosive. It carries you forward without burnout. You rest when needed. You act when inspired. You trust the rhythm. Rhythm replaces urgency. Urgency belonged to an identity that believed it was running out of time. That belief dissolves here. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy. You move with it instead of against it. Moving with time feels graceful. Grace emerges when effort and intention align. You are no longer forcing yourself to become someone else. You are allowing yourself to unfold. Unfolding reveals depth. You discover layers of yourself that were inaccessible under pressure. Talents emerge. Curiosities awaken. Joy appears in unexpected places. Joy does not require justification. It arises naturally when resistance falls away. You allow yourself moments of delight without guilt. You savor simple experiences. You laugh more easily. Ease is contagious. Others feel it and respond. You become a calming presence. Your steadiness offers reassurance without words. This influence is not intentional. It is incidental. Incidental impact is powerful. You are changing your environment simply by being who you are choosing to be. This confirms the law you are living. Identity precedes experience. Experience continues to reorganize. You may notice doors opening where you once felt blocked. Or you may notice that certain paths lose their appeal. Both are signs of alignment. Life is matching your inner position. Matching feels affirming. Affirmation no longer needs to come from outside. It arrives through resonance. Things fit. Situations make sense. You feel less friction. Less friction does not mean absence of challenge. It means challenges feel purposeful. They engage you rather than drain you. Engagement sustains growth. You are growing without losing yourself. You are changing without abandoning your center. This balance is rare, and it is the fruit of choosing your self-concept deliberately. Deliberate choice brings clarity. Clarity brings peace. Peace brings freedom. And freedom, once tasted, reshapes everything. You no longer fear losing it because you understand where it comes from. It comes from within, from the concept of yourself you are willing to live from. This concept is alive. It evolves as you do. You are not locking yourself into a new cage. You are opening a field wide enough to grow, so you continue gently attentive, inwardly honest, choosing your self-concept moment by moment, letting it align more closely with truth, letting it express more fully. The prison dissolves completely here. Only space remains. And within that space, you live freely. And now, let everything become quiet. There is no final step to reach, no version of yourself to chase. You are already standing in the space that once felt distant. The walls have thinned. The air is open. The weight you carried for so long has loosened. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to be earned. You are here. Here, where identity is chosen rather than inherited. Here, where awareness replaces habit. Here, where freedom feels natural. You understand now that the prison was never the world, never the past, never other people. It was a concept repeated until it felt real. And concepts can be released the moment they are seen clearly. Seeing is enough. From this seeing, you live differently. You think with care. You speak with intention. You act from alignment. Each day becomes an expression of who you are choosing to be, rather than a reaction to who you once believed yourself to be. This is quiet mastery. Mastery over attention. Mastery over self-definition. Mastery over the inner world that shapes the outer one. You do not rush this mastery. You allow it to deepen naturally. You return to it whenever you forget. There is no punishment for forgetting, only remembrance. And remembrance is gentle. So remain here, awake, grounded, inwardly free. Let your concept of yourself continue to expand in truth and compassion. Let life respond as it always does to the identity you live from. The door is open. The space is wide. The way forward is clear. Live there. There comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world grows thin, when the routines lose their color, when the familiar patterns no longer satisfy the deeper hunger of the soul. A moment when something ancient within you whispers, there is more. There has always been more. And if you are hearing these words, if they are reaching you not merely through sound but through recognition, then that moment is happening now. For there is a secret, a manifestation secret woven into the fabric of consciousness, encoded within scripture, confirmed by science, whispered by mystics, and demonstrated by every person who has ever changed their world from the inside outward. A secret hidden not because it was meant to be concealed, but because it can only be found by the one who is finally ready to see. And today, you are ready. This is not a lesson. It is not motivation. It is not a list of techniques or steps. This is an awakening, a remembering of a truth your soul has known since before you took your first breath. The truth that your imagination is not a playground. It is the birthplace of your reality. The truth that your beliefs are not opinions, they are laws in the unseen world. The truth that your feelings are not reactions, they are creative forces. And the greatest truth of all, God has placed within you the ability to call forth what does not yet exist and watch it crystallize into form. This is not metaphor. This is not poetic language. This is the structure of reality itself. Neville Goddard said, "Your imagination is God within you." Christ said, "As you believe, so shall it be done unto you." Science says, your subconscious shapes perception, and perception shapes experience. Oh, different voices, one truth. What you accept inwardly must express outwardly. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. This is the manifestation secret. You'll wish you had known earlier. Reality does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being in consciousness. Every morning, every night, every moment in between, your state of being is the command you send into creation. And now, as the stillness of this moment holds you gently, you are going to remember how to command your world with certainty, with faith, with clarity, with the authority given to you by the one who formed you. So breathe slowly, deeply, as if inhaling the truth of your divine nature, because you have not come here to learn something new. You have come here to awaken to what has always been yours. Now that the doorway of awareness has opened, let us step deeper into the truth that has shaped every miracle you have ever witnessed, every breakthrough you have ever felt drawn toward, every moment of alignment that you once dismissed as coincidence. The truth is this: you are always manifesting, not sometimes, not during meditation, not only when you visualize or affirm, always. Manifestation is not something you turn on with intention and turn off with distraction. It is the constant unfolding of who you are being in consciousness. Every assumption you hold, every story you repeat inwardly, every emotional state you dwell in, every mental picture you accept as true, is a seed planted in the unseen, a command issued to reality, a vibration that begins summoning like experiences into your world. This is the secret most people never fully grasp. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you believe. Wanting is weak. Wanting keeps the desire far away. Wanting says, I don't yet have, and I hope life brings it to me someday. But believing is possession. Believing says, it is mine in spirit, therefore it must become mine in form. Wanting looks outward. Believing looks inward. Wanting pleads. Believing commands. Wanting waits. Believing receives. This is why Scripture never tells you to want anything. Instead, it says, whatever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you have received them, and you shall have them. Not believe you might receive, not believe you could someday receive. Believe you have received. The secret is hidden in plain sight. Manifestation begins the moment you accept your desire as already accomplished in the realm of consciousness, not physically, not visibly, but inwardly, emotionally, energetically, imaginally, because the unseen is the true cause of the seen, and what is true in consciousness must eventually crystallize in the world of form. This is the law. Neville Goddard taught it this way: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not because feeling is a trick, but because feeling is the internal evidence of belief. When you feel the end before the end appears, you create spiritual legality. You give the unseen a blueprint. You give reality a pattern to follow. Your feeling becomes the mold into which life pours its substance. So the question is not, do you know what you want? The question is, can you feel yourself into the state of already having it? For the world you live in is only reflecting your inner state of possession. You cannot receive externally what you have not accepted internally. You cannot attract what you do not emotionally align with. You cannot hold in your hands what your heart rejects as unworthy or unlikely. This is why so many feel stuck, because they try to change life without changing state. They try to force manifestation while carrying beliefs that contradict it. But once you change your state, life changes effortlessly, because the outer world is only the shadow of the inner reality. Here it is, the part people skip, the part they underestimate. the part that transforms everything once understood. Your imagination is the creative act. Your reality is the echo. Imagination does not influence reality. It creates it. Every innovation humanity has ever known existed first as imagination. Every healing, every solution, every new path, every breakthrough began as an imaginal act, so real to the one who held it, that the world eventually yielded to it. The unseen becomes seen by law. Your imagination is not fantasy. It is access to the divine blueprint. It is the faculty through which God works in you. This is why Christ taught using parables, stories that ignite imagination, because imagination bypasses resistance and goes straight to belief. And belief is creation. So hear this clearly. The moment you imagine with feeling, you begin to materialize the unseen. Not later, not someday, immediately. And the only thing that can interrupt this process is disbelief, the emotional rejection of what you have imagined. But belief completes the circuit. Belief turns imagination into substance. Belief turns desire into destiny. Belief turns possibility into inevitability, which brings us to the heart of the secret, the revelation you will wish you had known years ago. Manifestation is not about attracting what is missing. It is about becoming the version of yourself for whom the desire is natural. Your vibration changes. Your identity changes. Your self-image changes. And as you shift internally, the entire world reorganizes itself to match the person you have become. This is why the work is inward, always inward, because the inner world is the cause of all outer expression. Now that the secret has begun to unfold within you, you may feel something stirring, a subtle recognition, a quiet remembering, a sensation that your life is no longer something you observe, but something you can shape with precision, with intention, with divine partnership. This stirring is the beginning of identity transformation, for manifestation is not merely the rearranging of external conditions. It is the gradual unveiling of the inner self that aligns with the life you desire. You cannot manifest a new world while clinging to an old identity. You cannot rise into abundance while seeing yourself as unworthy. You cannot manifest love while believing yourself hard to love. You cannot attract opportunity while assuming you are overlooked. You cannot create peace while carrying chaos in your inner narrative. Life cannot exceed the limits you have placed around your sense of self. This is why the deepest work of manifestation is not external action. It is the rebuilding of identity, not through force, not through pretending, not through faking confidence. Identity changes the moment you accept a new truth about who you are. Listen closely now. You manifest from who you think you are, not from what you hope will happen. This is the law. This is the spiritual architecture of creation. And once you understand this, your entire approach to life shifts. You stop asking, how do I get what I want? And begin asking, who must I become to naturally live the life I desire? Because the version of you who has the desire is not the same version who fulfills the desire. The manifestation is already done in consciousness, but you must rise into the version of yourself who can receive it, not through striving, not through forcing, not through exhaustion, by aligning, by becoming internally consistent with what God is already trying to give you. For Scripture says, no good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. Uprightly does not mean morally flawless. It means spiritually aligned. It means inwardly congruent. It means living from your higher identity instead of your wounded one. Your desires are not placed in you to torment you. They are placed in you to awaken the version of yourself that matches them. Your desire is not a reminder of what you lack. It is a prophecy of who you are becoming. And that is the secret you never realized. Desire is identity calling you forward. This is why Neville Goddard said, dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part relative to its fulfillment. It's that he understood that the world outside is always waiting for the world within to decide who you are. So now, let us turn inward and meet the version of you that your desire is calling forth. Close your eyes for a moment, not in escape, but in remembrance. Imagine, not as fantasy, but as inner perception, the version of yourself who already lives the life you long for, the version of yourself who carries no fear of inadequacy, the version of yourself who does not chase but attracts, who does not doubt but knows, who does not grasp but receives, who does not shrink but stands, who does not merely survive but creates. Do not imagine what this version has. Imagine who this version is. How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they breathe? How do they hold themselves? How do they treat themselves? How do they think when no one is watching? Feel the state of this version. Feel the confidence. Feel the clarity. Feel the calm. Feel the assurance. Feel the expanded identity. This isn't pretending. It isn't delusion. It isn't escapism. It is alignment. This version of you is real and exists in consciousness, waiting for your acceptance. The moment you feel yourself as this higher self, not mentally, but emotionally, something extraordinary happens. The old identity begins to crumble. The old limitations lose their grip. The old story begins to dissolve because no belief can survive. In a consciousness that has outgrown it, feel yourself rising into that identity now. You may not realize it, but in this moment, as you imagine with feeling, as you accept with certainty, as you allow yourself to embody the end, you are performing the very act that creates manifestation. You are assuming the state that life must reflect. You are inhabiting the reality that must become visible. You are stepping into the identity that God has been waiting for you to claim. And this next truth is the turning point of the entire journey. Manifestation does not happen to you. It happens through you, through the beliefs you hold, through the state you occupy, through the identity you embody. Nothing can come into your life until it first comes into your self-concept. And when you accept a higher self-concept, a higher life becomes inevitable. This is the manifestation secret you wish you had known earlier. Identity is destiny. Change the identity, and the destiny rearranges itself effortlessly. Now that you have stepped into the awareness of your higher identity, you are ready to understand the mechanism, the invisible architecture that explains why this identity creates your reality with such unwavering consistency. For everything that happens in your life is governed by law, not the laws of society, but the laws of consciousness, the laws of assumption, the laws of belief, the laws God wove into the fabric of creation when He said, "Let there be." These laws do not punish. They do not reward. They reflect. And the first law, the foundational law, is this: your inner state is always the cause. Your outer world is always the effect, even when you don't realize it, even when it feels accidental, even when circumstances appear random. There is nothing random. There is only reflection. This truth used to frighten people because they thought it placed blame on them. But the spiritually awakened know better. If your inner world creates your outer world, then nothing can prevent you from transforming your life except your refusal to believe in yourself. This is not a burden. It is liberation, because once you understand inner causation, you no longer waste energy trying to fix the outer world while your inner world remains unchanged. You no longer fight shadows. You no longer negotiate with fear. You no longer chase manifestations as though they are separate from you. You instead turn inward into the realm where all change begins and all miracles originate. Modern neuroscience confirms a truth that mystics and prophets knew thousands of years ago. Your brain does not operate objectively. It operates according to your assumptions. The reticular activating system, the part of your brain responsible for filtering reality, is constantly scanning the world to find evidence of the beliefs you already hold. If you believe life is difficult, you will see obstacles. If you believe you are unlucky, you will see closed doors. If you believe people cannot be trusted, you will notice betrayal. If you believe you are unworthy, you will feel overlooked even when you are seen, not because the world is that way, but because your mind is showing you only what matches your assumptions. This is why Scripture says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Not thinks in his mind, but in his heart, the emotional center, the feeling nature, the root of belief. Thoughts may come and go, but beliefs shape perception, and perception shapes experience, and experience becomes your world. So hear this with clarity. The world you see is not the world that exists. The world you see is the world your beliefs allow you to perceive. When you change the belief, you change the filter. When you change the filter, you change your perception. When you change your perception, you change your experience. This is not magic. This is consciousness. This is divine design. This is spiritual physics. Now let us go deeper into the part of manifestation people misunderstand most. Feeling, Neville Goddard said, feeling is the secret. Why? Because feeling is the signature frequency of your assumption. It is the emotional imprint that tells your subconscious, this is who I am now. This is my new state. This is reality, not simply because you said it, but because you felt it. Science shows that the human nervous system cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. The body responds the same. Hormones shift the same. Neural pathways fire the same. Your electromagnetic field vibrates the same. Meaning, when you feel the end before it appears, you are literally conditioning your mind and body to live from that reality. Your inner world becomes the container for the manifestation to enter. This is why affirmations without feeling do not work. Words are sound. Feeling is creation. Words can point to belief, but feeling is belief. So when you imagine the life you desire, do not ask, how do I make this come true? Ask, can I feel myself being the one who already has this? That feeling is the prophecy. That feeling is the bridge. That feeling is the law in motion. You are not waiting for the manifestation. The manifestation is waiting for you to stabilize in the state that matches it. The final truth in this movement is the one that transforms manifestation from effort to inevitability. You do not manifest what you desire. You manifest what feels normal to your self-concept. Normal is the key. Natural is the key. Familiar is the key. When abundance feels normal, opportunities flood toward you. When love feels normal, relationships flourish around you. When confidence feels normal, success becomes effortless. When peace feels normal, chaos loses its power over you. Not because the world changed first, but because you changed the inner emotional blueprint that decides how reality treats you. So now you are ready to rise again, to move into the section where the teaching becomes embodiment, where you actually step into the state that magnetizes your desire. Now, everything you've heard until this moment has been pointing you toward a single realization. Manifestation happens when you become the version of yourself for whom the desire is already fulfilled. This is the true secret. Not the desire itself, not the visualization, not the words spoken into the air, but the embodiment, the emotional acceptance, the inner shift, the quiet knowing that whispers, it is done. Not it will be, not I hope it will be. Must, not maybe someday if I work hard enough. No, it is done. In consciousness, in spirit, in identity, the outer world must follow. So now you are going to step directly into the state of the wish fulfilled, not with effort, not with strain, not with imagination alone, but with identity. Because here is the truth that dissolves all struggle. Once you assume the identity of the fulfilled version of yourself, everything else unfolds automatically. So let us enter that state together. Close your inner ear to the outer world and turn the full attention of your awareness inward. There, beneath thought, beneath memory, beneath habit, feel the presence of the version of yourself who already has what you desire. This version is not imaginary. It is a living possibility that exists in consciousness, waiting for you to inhabit it. Don't try to see it. Feel it. Feel the posture of this version. Feel the confidence. Feel the relief. Feel the gratitude. Feel the calm realization that everything has unfolded beautifully. Notice how the body relaxes when you accept this identity. Notice how the breath slows when you trust the unseen. Notice how the heart softens when you no longer question your worth. Notice how the mind quiets when you step into knowing. This is the state where manifestation is born. This is the state where doors open without force. This is the state where opportunities recognize you. This is the state where timing aligns effortlessly. This is the state that God responds to, not because he was withholding before, but because you were not yet aligned with the version of you who could receive the blessing. When you shift identity, you shift reality. So allow this higher version of yourself to settle into your awareness, like warm light filling an empty room. Let the emotions of having, already having, arise naturally. What does fulfillment feel like in your body? What does answered prayer feel like in your chest? What does abundance feel like in your nervous system? What does love feel like when it is secure? What does clarity feel like when doubt no longer clouds your decisions? This is the frequency your subconscious responds to. This is the vibration that creation obeys. This is the state that bends reality around you. And hear this gently. You are not trying to create the feeling. You are discovering it. It already lives within you. It was placed in you the moment God placed the desire in your heart. Desire and fulfillment are two ends of the same thread. By following the desire inward, you arrive at the fulfilled identity. Feel it now. Let it expand. Let it deepen. Let it become familiar. Let it become natural. Because the moment it becomes natural, manifestation becomes inevitable. Stay in this state a moment longer. Now observe something subtle but profound. When you embody the fulfilled identity, you feel no urge to chase, no urge to force, no urge to push, no urge to prove. The tension dissolves because lack is no longer your master. You are no longer trying to get anything. You are expressing what you already have. This is spiritual maturity. This is psychological coherence. This is the mind of Christ in action. Christ never begged, never pleaded, never chased outcomes. He simply assumed the authority of one aligned with the Father, and the world reflected his state. When he said, "It is finished," he spoke not of death, but of the completion of spiritual identity. The mission was accomplished because the inner state was fulfilled. Your manifestation works the same way. You do not wait for the outer to change. Before feeling fulfilled, you feel fulfilled to cause the outer to change. Lack creates more lack. Fulfillment creates more fulfillment. Identity creates its own evidence. Once you embody the end, you no longer fear the delay, because delay is merely the world rearranging to match your new identity. Nothing can stop what is already done in consciousness. Nothing can hinder what is already accepted in spirit. Nothing can oppose the identity you have assumed. When that identity is rooted in truth, and the truth is simple, what you feel to be true in imagination becomes true in your world, not by magic, but by alignment with divine law. Now listen carefully. Your new identity is not just a feeling. It is a law. Once you sustain the state, once you live in it, once you return to it again and again, your world has no choice but to conform. People will treat you differently because you treat yourself differently. Opportunities will appear because you expect them to. Resources will flow because you feel worthy of receiving them. Solutions will arise because your mind now perceives possibility, where before it only saw obstacles. The external world is not stubborn. It is obedient. It has always obeyed your inner world. Only now you are crafting that inner world consciously. This is the manifestation secret. You will wish you had known earlier. Reality is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Your inner state is the script. Your outer world is the performance. Change the script, and the performance cannot stay the same. As you rise into the new identity, something begins to happen within you, quietly, subtly, but unmistakably. The old self starts to loosen. The fears that once felt permanent begin to feel foreign. The doubts that once clung to your mind no longer feel like truth. The stories you once repeated now sound like echoes of someone you no longer are. And this moment of inner loosening, is one of the most sacred stages of manifestation, because before a new state can fully stabilize, the old state must fall away, not through force, not through battle, not through guilt, but through recognition. You do not fight the old self. You outgrow it. You release it by no longer relating to it. You dissolve it by choosing a higher truth. As Scripture says, "Behold, the old has passed away. All things have become new." This is not poetic language. It is a description of the psychological and spiritual rebirth you are experiencing now. The old beliefs cannot stay because your consciousness no longer sustains them. The old identity cannot stand because your spirit has stepped into expansion. You are becoming too aligned to carry misalignment, too awakened to carry illusions, too aware to carry unconscious limitation. And so, the old dissolves gently. It dissolves not because you are trying to get rid of it, but because you finally understand it was never truly you. It was a state, a pattern, a layer, a belief inherited, accepted, or absorbed during a time when you did not yet know your power. But you know now. And this knowing, this awakening, begins to purify your inner world. So let us move into this purification deliberately. Take a breath now, a slow, steady breath. And as you exhale, feel the old identity fall away, like dust from the shoulders of your soul. You do not have to identify the old beliefs. You do not have to analyze them. You do not have to examine your past. The past has no creative power unless you carry it into the present. And you are choosing differently. So speak this inwardly with the calm authority of one who knows the truth of spiritual law. I release every belief that contradicts who I am becoming. Again, I release every belief that contradicts who I am becoming. As you say this, feel the weight lifting. Feel the nervous system softening. Feel the mind becoming spacious. Feel your consciousness expanding into the identity you have chosen. This release is not forgetting, it is liberation. It is the clearing of the inner soil, so the new seed of identity can take root without interference. You are not fighting the old self. You are replacing it. You are becoming too aligned for it to remain. This is the secret no one tells you. The moment you fully embody the new state, the old state becomes impossible to sustain. It loses flavor, it loses power, it loses familiarity, it loses emotional charge. Your subconscious begins to reject it, like the body rejects something toxic. This is healing. This is transformation. This is identity regeneration. Now let us go deeper. Feel the presence of fear inside you, not as an enemy, but as an old resident moving out of a home it no longer belongs to. Fear dissolves the moment you stop believing that you must obey it. Fear dissolves when you stand in the identity that does not require its protection. Fear dissolves when you realize God placed in you a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Say inwardly, I am not afraid of my own becoming. Let it echo, I am not afraid of my own becoming, because fear was only ever the body's response to unfamiliar expansion. Doubt was only ever the mind's attempt to keep you in the known. Limitation was only ever the ego's way of maintaining control. But your spirit, your true self, is not limited. It is eternal. It is expansive. It is powerful beyond comprehension. And as you rise into your higher identity, fear does not need to be conquered. It needs to be outgrown. This is happening right now because you are no longer feeling like the person who needed fear to stay safe. You are feeling like the person who is guided, supported, protected, and aligned with divine intelligence. Fear cannot compete with that level of inner truth. So allow it to dissolve. Let doubt dissolve. Let every mental argument against your worth evaporate in the presence of your awakening. You are clearing the inner space that your manifestation will occupy. And now that inner space is nearly ready. And now, as the last layers of the old identity fall away and your spirit stands clear, open, uncluttered, you step into the highest truth you were always meant to remember. You were never manifesting from desire. You were manifesting from identity. And now that your identity has risen, your life must rise with it. There is nothing left to chase, nothing left to force, nothing left to fear, nothing left to prove, because manifestation is not a test of worthiness. Manifestation is not a negotiation with the universe. Manifestation is not the universe deciding whether you qualify for what you want. Manifestation is the natural expression of a consciousness aligned with truth. And your consciousness, right here, right now, is aligned. It is steady. It is open. It is receptive. It is illuminated from within. It is radiating the quiet authority of one who finally knows. What I seek is already mine in spirit. And because it is mine in spirit, it must appear in form. Feel the certainty of that. not noisy certainty, not desperate certainty, not aggressive certainty, but peaceful certainty, the kind that settles into the bones, the kind that requires no proof, the kind that Christ carried when he said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." Before anything had happened in the physical world, he knew prayer was answered at the moment of alignment, not the moment of appearance. So too with you, your manifestation is complete inwardly. The outer world is simply catching up. And now you walk forward not as someone waiting, but as someone knowing that God finishes what he begins, knowing that the desire planted in you is the promise of the fulfillment within you, knowing that every step you take is guided by unseen hands, knowing that everything is unfolding in the exact rhythm that matches your new identity. There is nothing more for you to do except remain in the feeling of the fulfilled state, remain in the gratitude of one who already has, remain in the trust of one who is divinely supported, remain in the peace of one who knows the outcome is already written in the unseen. This is the calm power of an awakened creator. And as your spirit settles into this new frequency, hear this final truth, not as a statement, but as a decree spoken over your life. Your desires are not random. They are divine instruction. They call you forward into the next version of yourself. You have answered that call now. You have risen inwardly. You have aligned with the end. You have allowed the old self to fall away. You have stepped into the identity that can hold the blessing. And because of that, your world will begin to shift in ways you once called miracles. But these are not miracles. These are laws being honored. These are prayers being fulfilled. These are assumptions becoming form. These are inner truths moving into outer expression. Walk now with the quiet confidence of one who knows their spiritual authority. Walk with the gentleness of one who knows God is near. Walk with the clarity of one who listens to the inner voice. Walk with the calmness of one who trusts divine timing. Walk with the strength of one who has awakened to their identity, and let this final blessing settle into your spirit like evening light resting on still waters. May your imagination remain open. May your faith remain steady. May your heart remain receptive. May your identity remain aligned. And may your life unfold as the natural reflection of the divine truth you now carry within you. You are no longer wishing. You are no longer hoping. You are no longer waiting. You are manifesting from the core of who you are. And from this moment forward, it is done.